Today's podcast is brought to you by Kentucky Farm Bureau Insurance. When it comes to home and auto insurance, it's important to have the right coverage from a company and an agent you can trust. Someone who will help you properly protect the people and things you love most. So if the unexpected happens, you and your family can rest insured. To request a free quote, find your local KFB insurance agent at mykfbagent.com. Kentucky Farm Bureau, big on commitment. Hey, Matt, how's it going?
It's going well. We are in Texas.
We took the podcast on the road.
Yes, we have a podcast in a box that we've shipped here, and we're doing a podcast on the road for the first time.
We do talk all the time about if you guys could see us, what it would look like, and Austin looks like a DJ. I mean, I think he could drop a beat right now for you guys.
Yeah, he has a cool little podcaster, and so we're really innovative today here in San Antonio at the American Farm Bureau convention. So super excited.
Yeah, we got some really cool guests, and you guys are really going to enjoy it. We've got two of them we're recording today, and we'll put them out the next couple weeks. But our first one's going to be fun, a little young farmer tug and some dairy talk, and so y'all will enjoy it.
Yeah, Kevin has graciously found us here in this giant convention center, and so we're really looking forward to this. I think the listeners will really like it.
All right, so without further ado, I'm Renee Carrico.
And I'm Matt Hilton.
And this is Between the Rows. All right. Well, Kevin Lussier, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, welcome. You found us. I was walking out in the hall, and I knew Kevin was a lot bigger than me. I'm 5'9", and I was like, "That's got to be him." I go, "Oh, that's too."
My reputation precedes me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. We appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love this convention. It's just such an awesome time. So much energy in the room. So many Farm Bureau members. It's just, I love being here and being a part of it.
Yeah, for sure. And who would have thought that Florida would have been leaving snow going to Texas? It's a wild time. So
we were like 15 miles south of that. My kids were so mad. I was so happy we didn't get all that snow. They missed out on
their like once in a lifetime snow.
I know. I felt bad showing them the pictures of our friends in the panel. They got like 10 inches. It was insane.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, we're starting to kind of narrow it down of where you're at, but why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're at in Florida, and kind of what you guys do on your farm?
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in Hawthorne, Florida. It's about 20 minutes east of Gainesville, north central area. My parents had started a dairy farm in 1991. I was born and raised on that farm. And, my parents, it was a typical family farm. We were milking primarily Holstein cows. I grew up, fell in love with it. I mean, I just was chasing. My grandparents moved down to help with the farm, and I had the opportunity to follow in their footsteps and chase my grandparents around and my dad around on tractors and feed calves, and just fell in love with the entire aspect of it. Knew I wanted to come back. Went to college for a couple of years in Jacksonville, and then ended up coming back in 2016 to join the family farm. And then, really had an opportunity to, we were either looking at growing the family farm to add another family member or diversify. And for us, diversification was really the easiest route. And the numbers were a lot better with diversification. So in 2020, my wife and I bought 100 head of Jersey cows, and we leased the neighbor's farm and went into cheese making. So we're currently milking right about 350 cows. We make 4 types of artisan cheese. We have a small commercial cow-calf operation, and we also produce hay, custom hay sales.
Yeah. So what's dairy like in Florida? I don't know. I don't think folks necessarily think dairy when they think Florida. So how common is that in Florida?
Yeah, we have seen a lot of consolidation over the last 10 years, just like everybody. But we have about 40, I think it's 48 dairies left in the state of Florida, and averaging right about 1,500 head per dairy. And, we've got a lot of great operations down there, guys that are doing a lot of incredible things. We've got 3 processors that are processing their own milk, and then several dairies that are really strong and growing and doing some very innovative things.
Yeah, you said they started it in 91. Mm. What was before that? Was there farming before that?
Yeah, so my parents are originally from Vermont. That's where my dad was born and raised. Met my mom up there, and my grandfather in the 80s had several dairies throughout the country, kind of investment properties, and he would lease them out. And they had this dairy in Florida, and it kind of the leaseholder had kind of gone backwards on it. And he said to my dad, he said, if you go down there and clean it up and get it right, we'll I'll share in the profits with you. And they moved down. They fell in love with it and never left. So it was that's where I was born and raised, and it's been that way ever since.
So you could have ended up anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
What
yeah.
are the odds? It's Florida.
Yeah.
That's so neat. That's a cool story.
Yeah, it was. I'm so happy they did because I love where we're at, and that my family's farm is actually sold since we diversified and went to the other operation. My parents wanted to take a step back, and they're helping me with my farm now. So it's been great.
Very cool.
That's awesome. Well, the first time we met, speaking of dairy, was at that all-encompassing dairy meeting AFBF put together in Kansas City. Matt, you want to talk about an odd group of people? A Lizzo concert, a Bills game, and dairy farmers all in one hotel. And you could obviously spot which group was which. It was fun. But no, that's the first place we met. And I think I learned a lot about Florida dairies. And I promise I'm not going to dive in for our listeners into how we price dairy and milk and dairy products in this country. But Florida is its own order. And so it is very interesting that they are, the Southeast is working together and they're a team player and all of that, but they kind of have their own demographic and the amount of population that's in Florida and the processors you still have. I mean, it's kind of its own unique beast and in a good way. You guys are able to kind of maintain a market, which I think is really interesting for a lot of us in Kentucky, where if we lose a processor, we immediately lose farms. I mean, so we have a different situation a little bit.
Yeah, and that's why I truly believe that dairy farmers are going to be around in Florida for a long time. We've seen the consolidation like everybody else, and there was, a time period where our dairies were struggling across the country, but we're coming back with the FMMO changes that have been released. I really think our producers are in a good spot, and we're nothing if not resilient, and we're looking forward to several good years of dairy farming in Florida.
So how does it feel? I mean, you're on the YF&R committee, so I think we can at least guess your age range. You're in a room at that dairy meeting with a lot of those that are, we'll call them seasoned in the industry, okay? And you're in there putting a voice in for, and you said the average size of the herd. You are not at the average size.
No.
So how does that feel being in that room and speaking on behalf of your whole state? Did you have like a little bit of, I don't want to say imposter syndrome, but like, how did I get in here? Was there a moment where you're like, oh, wow, why me?
Yeah, I think for me, it's we're all in this together, right? We have to work together. I've had the benefit of sitting behind some of my mentors in not only Farm Bureau, but in some of the dairy programs that have just taught me a tremendous amount. And really, whether you're milking 50 head or you're milking 5,000 head, we're still operating the same ways, and it really, we have to band together and come together to make change for the industry. So I've always looked at it like that. They've always treated me like that. Whether you're big or small, we're all one big family.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I mean, how were you introduced into Farm Bureau? Was it I guess through the Florida Farm Bureau? But how did you get involved in Farm Bureau? How did that get started for you?
Yeah, my parents have always been members of Farm Bureau. My dad would attend county meetings and things like that, and I've always had heard about the YF&R program. When I went off to college, went to Jacksonville University in Jacksonville, Florida, about an hour and a half away. All my friends also moved away from home. So when I got back and I was at the farm, and there was nobody really my age around there, I was really looking for something to do, and got a hold of my county Farm Bureau and said, hey, I'd really like to be involved in YF&R. And had a great field rep. Jared Lanier is his name. He's a great guy. He really pushed me to be involved, and I was trying to push him off a little bit there in the beginning because I thought I was too busy then. But got involved and just fell in love with it. And one of the biggest things I think is the competitive events, and that's what we're doing here this week. Is we have our 3 competitive events: Achievement Award, Excellence Award, and Discussion Meet. And those 3 events really bring in so many people. We have over 80 competitors here this week that are going to have a chance at some really amazing prizes.
Yeah, we have had the pleasure of getting to go over there. We watched quite a few of the events yesterday, and then we've got our discussion meet for Kentucky is, of course, in Sweet 16. So if we record and finish early enough, we'll get over there and watch her as well. But help the listeners understand. I think this is what I never understood until I was on staff and started really getting to meet you guys and had a Kentucky person on YF&R committee. You guys truly are coordinating these competitions as the committee. So talk to them about, I mean, it's really neat to be a young farmer or be a member at the annual meeting and at AFBF seeing these things. But what is that next step when you're on YF&R and you are the one reading the script in the front of the room and keeping the time? I mean, there's a whole big step you guys are going.
Well, I will say the staff, AFBF staff, is absolutely incredible, and they get us ready to do these things. But our committee has to come together and work hard to facilitate this. And when we look at it, you got over 80 competitors that are coming in, and this is their Super Bowl. I remember when I competed in Atlanta for the Achievement Award, it was something that I was so excited to be involved in. And when I showed up, you know, I was just wanting to get more experience in Farm Bureau and how can I do this and do that. And I see that, and that's really what motivates us. But it is a tremendous amount of work. We have a convention committee that Caitlin Keck from Minnesota is in charge of, and she's been my subcommittee chair this year, and she's done a fantastic job. There's a lot of hours that go into this. We're here for about a week, a couple of days before the competitors get in, and we're finding rooms and making sure scripts are laid out and that everything's perfect, because we want that competitor to have the best experience they can, to make sure that this isn't the last stop in Farm Bureau, that they're competing and then they're going back to their state and figuring out how they can be more involved.
Yeah. Talk about what was beyond the connections, the things that young farmer programs have brought you. What was it about Farm Bureau that the light bulb went off, and because you're doing a huge leadership role. You're saying yes, and what else how do I do more? How do I get more involved? What were some of the things that you saw as a young farmer saying, oh, this is a little bit more than just competitions and connections. This is something big, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think for me, it came down to policy creation, and really, I've always loved policy. I've always loved being involved and speaking with our legislators. And I think having the opportunity, when you walk into a congressional member's office, and I'm not just Kevin Lussier from the state of Florida, I'm Kevin Lussier with the YF&R program, or I'm Kevin Lussier at AFBF or Florida Farm Bureau, you know, that puts some weight behind your name. It gets you in that door. Now, once you're in that door, you have to tell your story. And that's where Farm Bureau has helped me develop so much as a leader, has helped me be able to craft that story and really get to a point with a congressional member that's going to hear from 1,000 people a day.
Yeah.
How can you be the one that stands out? And really, that's where it was for me. I always wanted to see that next generation be able to do the same things that I was able to do. You know, I've seen so many of our young farmers that are working so hard to get started, that are trying, you know, working an off the farm job to be able to farm on weekends and nights, to have the opportunities that I have. I want to make sure that that continues for generations, and that's really where I found my place in Farm Bureau, because that aligns exactly with what this organization represents.
Yeah,
absolutely. So, man, Florida. So there's so much diverse crops and livestock. How do you, when you're representing Florida Farm Bureau to start with, how much did you learn when you were working in your own state, trying to understand the rest of what was happening just around you as you were representing that whole group when you started coming to these big national events?
Yeah, that's a great question. It was something I had to really kind of change my mindset. You know, we in Florida have our advisory committees, and those are so important to the organization, because I can sit here and tell you anything you want to know about a dairy cow, but when it comes to peanuts, I've got no clue.
Right,
so
right.
You don't want me up there talking about peanuts. And that's where those advisory committees, you can lean on them. If you're in a position like I am, you can go back and say, hey, you know, I've had this question asked of me. Please give me a 30,000 feet view of how I can help, you know, your commodity. And those things are extremely important. It was one of the things that I had to really learn, and staff helped me tremendously, was I'm not just representing Florida young farmers anymore. I'm representing farmers from across this country. And California farmer is going to have very different views sometimes as a Florida farmer, a Georgia farmer, and we have to work together. And we call it putting on our Farm Bureau hat, right? You take off your farmer hat, your Florida farmer hat, and you put on your Farm Bureau hat, and we band together to try and help agriculture across this country.
Yeah, that's got to be humbling. You go into that, you're like, why did I get picked to do this, right?
Absolutely. You know, I've thought that several times. And, you know, the one thing for me is, as you look at my committee, every committee member could lead in this position. I mean, the talent is just amazing. And it's just who has the time, right? And I've been blessed to have my wife, who's a trooper. Shelby's at home right now. She's sick, watching 3 kids. You know, she's allowed me to do these things by helping us. My parents are home. They're on the farm, you know, helping me get through this. So I had the opportunity to do it. But, you know, I have been so honored and humbled to be able to represent this committee and the state of Florida, young farmers across the country.
So I'm going to jump back just because we didn't dive enough. Cheese making. We have got some guys in Kentucky doing it, but I don't realize how many of our members, we say this all the time about the podcast. This is literally my job, but recorded. I get to drive around and talk to farmers, and I have all these wonderful stories, but it's hard for me to remember every one, to regurgitate it to every group. And so it's fun for me to get to invite people in. And we've got some artisan cheesemakers in Kentucky, and I didn't realize how many people don't understand that process.
Oh, yeah.
So why cheese? Why not bottling the milk? Why not yogurt? I have a lot of people that ask me that all the time. Why not ice cream? What made you go cheese? And what is the infrastructure, the processing piece like? Like how big of a commitment, whether it was financial or learning or certifications, help people understand, because food safety is a wild situation that I don't think maybe your average cow-calf beef guy understands. They're not messing with the retail product. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. No. So we had the opportunity to come to us, really. We had an older couple that was 2.5 miles away from my family's farm. And they had started this cheese making operation in 2009. Didn't have any kids coming behind them. Were looking for a way to slow down. They were both in their 70s, getting to the point where they wanted to take a little bit of a break. They approached us, and the first time they approached me, I said no. I said, I'm not a cheesemaker. I don't know anything about cheese. So I'm a dairy farmer. No, I don't want to do that. And then they came back, and they were like, look, you really need to look into this. You're a young guy. You and your wife are just trying to get started. Please, take a look at this. Come over. And we talked, and ended up saying yes. And they were already making the cheese, and that's why we went into cheese making. Eventually, I'd love to get into bottling milk or making yogurt or kind of diversifying that. But the markets that they had set up and what we inherited, really, they were not able to produce enough to satisfy those markets. So we felt there's no reason to diversify again.
Oh, no.
Let's just go ahead and attack those markets. So that's what we've been doing the last 4 or 5 years now. It's gone by quick. But the process, we have a processing facility that sits right next to our dairy farm, or excuse me, our dairy parlor. So the milk will go in, we get it to under 40 degrees in our milk tank, and then we pump it right into the cheese plant. We have a big vat. It's a 400-gallon vat, makes roughly about 360 pounds of cheese per make. Depending on what time of year, we're either making more or less. I didn't realize how seasonal that market would be. Especially with, if you think about Florida, people are coming down here during the winter all the time. And that's really when we start to crank up. And then during the summertime, all the kids are out of school, they're on vacation. Nobody wants to come to Florida when it's 112 degrees out. So that's when we start to slow down. So that processing, the deal that we made with the previous owners was that if we're going to do this, I need you to stay on for at least a year and teach me the art. And Nancy Mims is her name. Nancy was an artist. I mean, she had taught herself. Basically, they had a consultant come down for one day.
That's it.
Yeah, and then she dove into it, and she figured out how to make it. And she's still on our staff. She's still there. She loves to help us out. She's been a huge part of what we do. And she's taught us how to make cheese. And now my mom's on staff, and I asked her to come back when I got this position, because I knew that it was going to be a lot of work and a lot of time off the farm. So she, I don't know if it was begrudgingly, but she came back and helped me. So now she knows how to make cheese, and it's just we're doing it like a family operation. Everybody's in there helping each other, and we're trying to grow this into something that we can pass down for generations.
Yeah, I love to hear someone come back. They stepped away, but they wanted to make sure it worked for you, and I think that's really neat. Yep. How important is that as young farmers? I think the biggest thing you did was ask, which I think is a big part of what young farmers need to do, and frankly, what the older farmer needs to ask that young farmer, hey, you need some help here,
and ask twice,
because they're probably proud and they're like, no, I can do this. But how important was that? Just that willingness for her to say yes and help that way.
It's any success that I've had in my life has come directly from somebody helping me out. And I like to say the greatest thing that I've done is just said yes.
Right.
To the cheese plant, to Farm Bureau, to stepping up, and every time they hand me a microphone, when I first started, I'd be shaking. But then you get used to it and you get involved and you keep going. So I as our young farmers are getting into business, don't be afraid to ask, because there's a lot of farmers out there that want to help you. They want to see that next generation be successful. They don't want to see agriculture die. So they want to be there. And then, the other thing is, I would say, is say yes to these opportunities, because, you don't know what's coming. You don't know what other opportunities are going to be out there. So I eventually, when I was in my 20s, I said yes to everything. But now I'm kind of picking and choosing which ones to say yes to as we've grown our family. But, you've got to stick your neck out there a little bit and figure out where you can help in this industry.
I know, it's helped your nerves, but this is the most nervous thing you've ever had to do, is be on the Kentucky Farm Life podcast.
Right.
Oh my God,
this is a big deal.
We are really intimidating.
I wish y'all could see the line outside that wanted to get in, and we said, not today. We're booked.
No, I love this, guys. I appreciate y'all having me on.
Okay, well, I this is one of my favorite parts, and I say all the time, I'm biased because I am obviously young farmer age, and my husband's here, and he's at the livestock marketing breakout right now, so it's a cool moment.
Mhm.
But one of my favorite things, whether it's your state young farmer committee, whether it's YF&R on the national level, it's a pair of you, it's a couple.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So yes, you're the chair,
Mhm.
but your wife is right there with you. She has a story. And in our situation, Heather and Reed, who have been, I believe, guests on this podcast, Heather was the chair, and Reed was right there with her, and it's a cool couple experience. Talk to us about maybe some of her background, what
Mhm.
she enjoys about it. I'm sure you didn't just drag her along with you. So what are the parts about Farm Bureau and farming that she's kind of gotten into?
It's my wife actually is not on the committee. She decided to stay back. So we had the opportunity to foster a couple
Incredible.
kids,
Oh,
and
neat.
we started that in the end of 2023. And then we had our own son in September of 24, our first biological son, I should say. They're all of our sons.
Yeah.
But it's with that opportunity that arose, we decided with the time commitment that it'd be better if she stayed at home. So I will say that there was absolutely no way that I could do what I do without her. I mean, she does have an off the farm job. She's a conference manager, and we wouldn't be able to get started without the sacrifices that she's made for our family. I'm looking forward to, as this year wraps up and I finish up in March. It's kind of a bittersweet ending because it's something that's been so great for me and so many great opportunities. But I'm also looking forward to getting home and giving her a chance to go off and do some things because I've been real selfish this year and taking all these opportunities with her at the house taking care of the family.
Yeah. So y'all gotten to share it in a different way.
Yes, exactly.
Actually, that's even more unique. That's really neat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's made a lot of sacrifices for me. Yeah.
Excellent. Talk about those opportunities.
Yeah.
What's the Farm Bureau has taken me to a lot of states, and I'm
Mhm.
sure I didn't get involved as much as you. So, what are some of the neat things that this committee has brought to you? Like, what are some of the unique places you've seen? Some of the cool opportunities.
Yeah, I really love. We have 4 in-person meetings a year. You've got convention and conference, which is where we're at right now, and then we'll be in Fusion in Denver. But then there's 2 in-person meetings that we take just as a committee, and those are usually paired with the sponsors. So we went to Case IH my first year in, and got to tour that plant. And it's just amazing, to see behind the scenes. And then all of these sponsors have done such a great job at opening their doors to us and really giving us the inside look. Had a chance to go to JBS in Omaha. That was extremely unique to see, raising cattle my whole life, being around it, from raising them to the sale barn to, the ins and outs of the markets, to see that side of it and how they use every, ounce of that cow is used and sold, and people are being able to benefit from it. It really gives you a lot of, I always enjoyed it as a producer to see that. So that was really unique. I've had the opportunity to testify in front of the Senate Ag Committee this year in Washington. Opportunities like that don't come around very often. And staff, that was all because the staff was willing to put some work and effort in me and allow me to take that opportunity. So that was really neat.
Cool.
So, okay, we're here, and you mentioned Fusion, but I think for those that have never done Fusion, explain kind of what that is, because you guys go back to back. This one's pretty quick. It comes up not too far along.
Yes.
And so for our Kentucky delegation, a lot of us are here, and then we go to DC, and then our YF&R guys immediately are rolling to Fusion. So talk to them about what's going on in Denver. What can they look forward to? What are some neat things y'all have gotten to work on kind of in preparation for that?
Yeah, so with Fusion coming up, we're always they have the collegiate discussion meet is held at Fusion, so we'll have more competitions there. But the opportunities to network, several of the learning sessions, just like we're here at convention, we'll have several more of those. What I think is really great, and it was something I enjoyed when I was on the state level, was having the opportunity to network with the other state chairs. So we have a state chair breakfast that comes up, and you get to learn a lot there. But I met all my friends in Farm Bureau from that opportunity. I talked to people from Wisconsin, from Utah, from Texas, just because we spent an hour and a half in a breakfast together. So I think those are really unique and great opportunities for young farmers to be able to network. We've got some really cool social gatherings that'll be coming up. I'm afraid that I'm going to speak too soon. I got to look and see.
We're just trying to get you to spill the beans.
I know.
This is,
I'm trying
breaking
hard not
breaking
to.
news.
You
Right
can see
here.
the sweat coming down my forehead right now. It's because I don't know what's been released and what hasn't. But
Great events. We'll
Yes,
just go
great
with that.
events.
Great
That's right.
events.
Denver is just, if you have never been to Denver, it is just a really unique town. I think everybody thinks you're used to getting off an airplane and then being 5 minutes away. And airport
Forever.
is quite a bit away. And then when you get to Denver, it's just its own kind of little world. You can get out to the ski slopes. I just think a lot of people, if you've never done Colorado, Denver's a really cool place to visit and to see things. And so some of the things you guys have tentatively put on the agenda are pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
no
I
doubt.
think we might need some video work out
do you
there.
think?
I think the Kentucky Farm Bureau should send a video guy out there. don't
yeah,
you?
just one in particular.
Yeah, just one particular guy. I don't know who we should send, but yeah. No, I was kidding. No, it looks pretty cool. It looks like a great event.
Several of our committee members on the national level have already talked about going out a couple days early and skiing. I'm looking at me, you could probably tell I'm a big skier. I think I've seen snow twice in my life, and then you put me on ice skates, probably wouldn't be too good. So.
Yeah.
So the Vermont jeans did not come down to you. You
I'm
didn't
a
get ski
Florida boy
jeans.
through and through, yeah.
Okay, so you said you got here early, and kind of as we wrap some of this up, what was cool in San Antonio? We've got people that travel. Some of still got a couple days. I know this comes out after the fact, but I mean, what were some cool things about San Antonio or Texas that you maybe didn't know or were fun to do?
The river walk's amazing. To go down there, the atmosphere is just incredible. The weather's been beautiful too. I mean, to come from snowy Florida to over here, it's been a little bit warmer. It's been nice to get back to the normal weather, but. Riverwalk's beautiful. I have not had. We've been going since I got here on Wednesday, and my flight got delayed. I didn't get until 2:30 in the morning, and then Thursday we're rolling. So I've got Tuesday afternoon off, and I'm going to try to hit the Alamo. It's something I'm here. It's real close to where we're at, and I want to make sure to do that.
Cool. So I'm a young farmer. I'm not involved. How do I get involved? Where can people learn about YF&R program or even their state's young farmer YF&R program?
I know this for a fact because I've gotten to know a lot of your staff members, but you guys do a fantastic job. Ask staff, ask your county farm bureaus. The one thing I've found in Farm Bureau is if you ask and you show a willingness to want to learn and lead, they're going to put you to work. And that's a lot of the reason I'm sitting here today. Is as I asked them, and they put you in those roles. So there's so many opportunities, and I think that's the thing our young farmers don't recognize a lot of the time is every time you walk through these doors at Farm Bureau, opportunities there.
Yeah,
and it may be talking to a legislator, it may be developing a program for your YF&R young members for more recruitment. There's so many things that you can do that's going to directly impact agriculture, impact yourself as a leader, and impact your business, and that's something I try and make sure our members know every time that I talk to them.
Well, I think that is perfect. And I hate to wrap up, and I hope this doesn't make you uncomfortable, but you have a really inspiring story. It's a lot of really kind of God moments, I feel like, that
absolutely.
you ended up, your family even ended up in Florida. Your parents are where you're at. You're with your mentor in the cheese-making business. Your family's grown and expanded the way it has. It's just this whole interview has been a really cool, kind of unique, very inspiring. So I hope you're getting a chance to share that with people throughout this year, and don't take that for granted because it's a really cool story.
I appreciate that, yes.
Yeah. Thanks for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Kevin. And thank you, listeners. Be sure to subscribe to our larger podcast, The Kentucky Farm Life. And we'll see you next time on Between the Rows.